From daggers hidden behind invisible walls to shields that require solving paintings most players forget about, these are the most secret items in Elden Ring that will change how you play the game. Golden Scarab. This talisman boosts your rune acquisition by 20%, which sounds boring until you realize it's the difference between grinding for 3 hours or 1 hour to level up in late game. The Golden Scarab lives in the abandoned cave in Caelid, which is already a red flag because Caelid is where Joy goes to die. Getting this thing requires you to defeat 2 clean rot knights, at the same time in a cramped cave where your camera has a personal vendetta against you. These knights hit like trucks, inflict scarlet rot, and love to combo you into oblivion while their buddy backstabs you from across the room. It's peak From Software design, putting one of the most useful items in the game behind a fight that makes you question your life choices. But once you have it, every rune you earn gets that 20% bump, which means faster leveling, more smithing stones, and less time farming those albinorics on the cliff. The community calls this the rune farmer's best friend, and they're not wrong. Pair it with a gold pickled foul foot, and you're basically printing runes. This item has over 10 million views across farming guides, which tells you everything about how essential it is for anyone who doesn't want to spend their entire playthrough underleveled and crying. But rune farming was just the surface. What From Software hid next would make completionists question their sanity, and the community still debates if it was genius or cruelty. Silver Scarab. If the Golden Scarab is about getting more runes, the Silver Scarab is about getting more stuff. This talisman increases item discovery by 75 points, making rare drops actually drop instead of mocking you for 40 attempts. It's hidden in the hidden path to the Halig Tree, which is already a nightmare location that requires you to navigate invisible bridges over a bottomless pit. The path to this thing involves walking on air, breaking illusory walls, and praying you don't accidentally roll off into the void because your depth perception failed you. From Software designed this area specifically to punish players who don't obsessively tap walls and inch forward like they're defusing a bomb, but the payoff is worth 75 item discovery means farming for rare armor sets, weapons, and materials becomes significantly less painful. You want that banished knight chest piece? Silver Scarab. Need a specific Ash of War to drop? Silver Scarab. The community nicknamed this the Discovery Beetle because of its scarab design, and it's become essential for completionists who want every piece of gear without losing their sanity. The fact that it's hidden behind invisible walkways and secret walls is peak Souls logic. You can see why speedrunners memorize this path frame perfect, while casual players just look up the route and call it a day. Discovery mechanics were generous compared to what came next, because From Software was about to hide their best faith weapon behind something so random, you'd think they were trolling. Blade of Calling. This is a faith-scaling dagger that looks like the black knife weapons, but with golden holy energy instead of destined death. It's hidden in the Forbidden Lands, which you reach late game, and the acquisition method is so stupid it's almost genius. You have to ride an elevator down, then jump off mid-descent onto a hidden ledge that you'd never notice unless someone told you it existed. The Blade of Calling has the Blade of Gold skill, which launches a holy projectile that tracks enemies and deals solid damage for a dagger. It's perfect for faith builds that want a fast weapon with range options, and the weapon art scales with your incantation power. Lore-wise, this connects to Melina and the Black Knife Assassins, fitting into the broader narrative about destined death and the Golden Order's secrets. The fact that From Software hid this behind a random elevator jump with no hints or clues is textbook Miyazaki. You either find it by accident, watch a guide, or miss it entirely across multiple playthroughs. But here's the thing, if faith builds needed a holy dagger this badly, why hide it in the most random spot in the game? Keep that question in mind, because the answer isn't what you think. That elevator trick was child's play. The DLC introduced something stranger, a weapon that doesn't just kill enemies, it erases them from reality entirely, and the way you find it proves From Software learned nothing about mercy. Cinquedea. This dagger boosts bestial incantations by 20%, which makes it essential for any faith build focusing on Garank's beast spells. The Cinquedea is hidden behind the bestial sanctum in Dragon Barrow, Caelid, requiring you to jump down a series of routes and platforms that most players assume lead nowhere. The weapon scales to A in faith at max upgrade and has solid physical damage for a dagger. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, subscribe now. The 20% boost to beast incantations means spells like Stone of Garank and Bestial Sling hit significantly harder, turning a niche build into something genuinely powerful. Visually, the dagger has claw-like engravings that match the Beastman aesthetic, tying it into the game's lore about Farah Mazula and the Beast Priests. About 40% of faith players in the community use this weapon according to build trackers, which shows its importance for that playstyle. The acquisition method is pure From Software hiding essential gear behind jumps that look suicidal, but are actually safe if you trust the process. Casual players miss this entirely because who jumps off cliffs behind a building for fun? But that's the whole point. From Software wants you to explore every ledge, every corner, every suspicious gap in the world geometry. They weaponized curiosity itself. Beast builds got their toy. But what if I told you there's an item that makes one of the game's hardest bosses completely trivial? Most players never find it because From Software buried it behind a questline that punishes you for breathing. breathing wrong. Blasphemous Claw. This item is stupid good against Malekith and absolutely useless everywhere else, which makes it the ultimate situational secret. The Blasphemous Claw lets you parry Malekith's golden blade attacks, staggering him and opening him up for criticals. You get it by defeating Recusant Bernal when he invades you in crumbling Farah Missoula, which only happens if you've progressed his questline correctly. The fight against Bernal is tough because he uses the Blasphemous Blade's weapon art, which heals him while damaging you, but once you kill him, you get this claw, and suddenly one of the game's hardest bosses becomes manageable. Parrying Malekith feels incredible because his attacks are so aggressive and overwhelming that turning them against him is pure satisfaction. The community calls this Malekith's Bane because it trivializes the fight if you learn the timing. About 25% of endgame players use this according to boss strategy polls, with most opting for the parry route instead of traditional dodging. The lore connection ties this item to Rykard and the Blasphemous Legacy, suggesting that certain weapons were designed specifically to counter the Golden Order's champions. From Software hid this behind an invasion that many players miss entirely because Bernal's quest is easy to screw up. You have to talk to him multiple times, progress specific areas, and then look for his invasion sign in Farah Missoula. Miss any of those steps and you're fighting Malekith the hard way. Boss counters are one thing, but From Software also hid an entire weapon category behind fake walls, because apparently finding the boss wasn't hard enough. Crystal Spear. This sorcery lets you hurl a crystal spear projectile that pierces and explodes on impact. It's hidden in Celia Hideaway in Kylid, behind an illusory wall that you'd never find unless you were either incredibly thorough or following a guide. The crystal spear works great for intelligence builds that want a ranged option, piercing multiple foes with solid damage. The glowing blue aesthetic fits perfectly with crystal sorcery builds, and the weapon has decent scaling for a throwable. From Software loves hiding weapons like this in random caves behind fake walls, testing players' willingness to smack every surface in the game. The Celia Hideaway itself is easy to miss because it's tucked away in northern Kylid, and the illusory wall blends perfectly with the cave geometry. Players who do find it feel smart for about 10 seconds before realizing they probably missed 50 other secrets just like it. The question is, if intelligence builds needed a throwable weapon this specific, why not make it more obvious? Because From Software wanted to see who was paying attention. Harp Bow. This bow shoots arrows that emit musical notes on impact, which sounds gimmicky until you realize it's actually a solid weapon for dexterity ranged builds. You get the Harp Bow by solving the champion song painting puzzle in Altus Plateau, which requires finding a painting, figuring out the location it depicts, and traveling there to claim the reward. The painting system in Elden Ring is a pure environmental storytelling. Each painting shows a specific vista, and you have to match it to a real location in the game world. The champion song painting depicts a spot in the mountaintops of the Giants, and when you find it, the Harp Bow spawns there as a ghostly reward. The weapon itself has good dexterity scaling and decent damage, but the real appeal is the aesthetic. Firing musical arrows at enemies is just fun, and the sound design makes each shot feel unique. About 30% of dexterity players use this bow according to weapon popularity data, mostly for its novelty and solid performance. From Software hid this behind a puzzle that requires exploration, memory, and pattern recognition, skills that define the soul's experience. The painting system rewards players who actually look at the world instead of just sprinting through it, but painting puzzles were just the warm-up. What comes next is where From Software started hiding entire boss fights behind secrets. Paintings were just reconnaissance. The DLC took it further, hiding consumables that literally transform you into mythical creatures, and most players sprint right past them. Rockheart. This DLC consumable transforms you into a dragon, enhancing your breath attacks and giving you temporary draconic power. You get it by solving the Domain of Dragons painting in the Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion, which requires finding the painting and then traveling to Jagged Peak to claim the reward. The Rockheart transformation lasts for a limited time but significantly boosts Dragon Communion incantations, making spells like Dragonfire and Rotten Breath deal massive damage. The item ties into the DLC's expanded dragon lore, connecting to Baal and the ancient dragon war that predates the Erd Tree. Visually, using the Rockheart gives your character a draconic appearance with glowing scales and enhanced breath effects. Only about 15% of DLC players have found this according to Completion Track, which makes it one of the rarer secrets. The Domain of Dragons painting is easy to miss because Jagged Peak is an optional area that many players skip or rush through. From Software designed this specifically for lore enthusiasts and completionists who want to experience every piece of the expansion's mythology. The transformation mechanic itself is unique to the DLC, showing how the developers expanded on existing dragon themes from the base game. The question is, if dragon builds needed this power boost, why lock it behind a painting puzzle in an optional area? Because From Software respects players who dig deep. Dragon transformations sound powerful, but what if you needed perfect defense instead? From Software hid that too, behind a puzzle most players start but never finish. Serpent Crest Shield. This shield blocks poison buildup and boosts fire resistance, making it perfect for areas like the Scarlet Rot swamps or fire giant fights. You get it by solving the incursion painting in Gravesite Plain, which which is one of the DLC's painting puzzles that most players overlook. The Serpent Crest shield has solid defensive stats and medium weight, fitting into most builds without over-encumbering your character. The poison immunity is clutch for Lake of Rot or Caelid exploration, where rot buildup can drain your health faster than you can chug flasks. Fire resistance makes this useful against fire-based bosses and enemies, reducing chip damage from flame attacks. The serpent design connects to the DLC's expanded lore about ancient serpents and their connection to the Crucible. About 20% of DLC players use this shield according to equipment tracking, mostly for its utility in specific areas. The incursion painting is hidden in an early DLC zone, which means many players find the painting but forget to solve it before moving on. From Software placed this shield reward in a location that mirrors the painting's depiction, rewarding players who remember and return. But here's the thing, if defensive gear like this was so useful, why hide it behind a puzzle that most players forget about? Keep that in mind, because the answer shows how From Software tests player memory across 100-hour campaigns. Founding Rain of Stars. This sorcery creates a massive magical meteor shower that deals damage over a wide area, making it one of the most visually impressive spells in the game. You find it in a chest at the top of the Heretical Rise Tower in the mountaintops of the Giants, accessed by crossing an invisible bridge over a ravine, visible via white mist or at night, starting from the opposite side near the Snow Valley Ruins Overlook Site of Grace. The spell costs high FP, but deals significant damage to groups of enemies or slower bosses, with each meteor tracking independently. The founding name connects to the primeval sorceries and the study of glintstone magic from the stars. Visually, casting this spell looks like summoning an actual meteor storm, with golden blue projectiles raining down in a beautiful cascade. Intelligence builds use this for crowd control and boss damage, especially against large targets that can't dodge the spread. The fact that From Software hid this behind another invisible bridge puzzle, similar to the Silver Scarabs area, shows their commitment to testing player observation in frustrating areas. The community loves this spell for screenshots and boss fights, with guide views in the millions, but the real genius is how From Software made you earn it with no easy path, no obvious clues, just pure exploration and trust in the process. Meteor showers look incredible, but From Software saved their most sadistic secret for players who thought they'd seen everything. Spoiler, it involves wall abuse. Dagger Talisman. This talisman boosts critical hit damage by 17%, which makes it essential for builds focusing on riposts, backstabs, or guard counters. It's hidden in a chest in Volcano Manor, which sounds simple until you realize you must drop down to a hidden ledged platform from the entrance area that most players miss. Access requires 2 Stone Sword keys to dispel the imp-sealed fog door near the Manor throne room. Head west upstairs before the waygate to Audience Pathway, then drop down platforms through caged rooms past enemies to reach the corpse with the talisman. The 17% crit boost is huge for PvP and PvE builds that rely on punishing enemy mistakes. Pair this with a misrecord dagger and you're basically one-shotting enemies off riposts. 50 hits was the warm-up. What From Software hid in the next room could delete entire boss health bars in one attack if you bothered to check the side rooms. Royal Knight's Resolve. This Ash of War boosts your next attack by 80%, which is absolutely broken for one-shot builds and boss strategies. You find it in Volcano Manor, specifically in a side room that most players miss because they're focused on the assassination questline. The 80% damage boost works on any weapon, making it perfect for colossal swords, great hammers, or charged spell setups. You pop the buff, wind up your heaviest attack, and delete health bars in a single hit. PvP players love this for ambush tactics, while PvE players use it to skip entire boss phases. The Royal Knight's Resolve synergizes with charged attacks and jump attacks, stacking multiplicatively with other damage buffs. The fact that it's sitting in a chest in Volcano Manor while most players are busy following Tanith's questline shows From Software's love of hiding power in plain sight. About 35% of strength builds use this Ash according to loadout data, making it one of the most popular offensive tools in the game. The name connects to the Knights of Leyndell and their dedication to overwhelming force, fitting the lore about the Royal Army's tactics. But here's where it gets interesting. If this Ash of War was so powerful, why place it in an optional manner that players can completely miss? Because From Software rewards exploration over linear progression. Damage buffs win fights. But what about just not dying? From Software hid that solution in an underground kingdom most players never knew existed. Prince of Death's Pustule. This talisman raises faith by 15 and boosts vitality, death blight resistance. It's hidden in a pit below Stormvale Castle. From Liftside Chamber Site of Grace, drop down the chasm carefully, defeat the ulcerated tree spirit, then loot the corpse next to the giant root-like face tied to Godwin Sichash Prince of Death lore. The 90 vitality boost makes this talisman essential for survival builds and PvP setups, where every HP point matters. About 40% of players miss Deep Root Depths entirely according to achievement tracking, which means they never get this talisman. From Software designed this area as a reward for thorough underground exploration, connecting it to Fia's questline and the Rani path. The pustule design looks gross and thematic, fitting the Deathblight aesthetic. The community debates whether this or other vitality talismans are better, but the consensus is that 90 flat vitality is huge for low-level builds. Survival gear keeps you alive, but the DLC introduced something weird, an item that controls time itself. Sort of. And it only works on NPCs, which raises some disturbing questions about From Software's NPC philosophy. Thiolier's Concoction. This DLC item puts NPCs to sleep for 24 hours in-game time, which has specific uses in questlines and NPC interactions. You get it from Thiolier's quest in Shadow of the Erdtree, which requires following his storyline and making specific dialogue choices. The concoction works on certain NPCs, allowing you to manipulate quest outcomes or access areas that would otherwise be blocked. It's a niche item, but essential for completionists who want every quest ending and dialogue option. The 24-hour sleep duration means you have to manage in-game time carefully, resting at sites of grace to advance the clock. Thiolier's character ties into the DLC's poison and sleep themes, connecting to Saint Trina's expanded lore. Only about 10% of DLC players complete his full questline according to tracking data, which makes this concoction one of the rarer finds. From Software loves putting quest-critical items behind NPC interactions that are easy to mess up, requiring precise timing and dialogue choices. The concoction's existence shows how the DLC expanded on manipulation mechanics beyond combat, but niche quest items were just the setup. What comes next is where From Software started hiding entire gameplay mechanics behind secrets that most players never discover. Quest manipulation seemed harmless, until you realize From Software designed an entire hidden system around player memory, environmental awareness, and trust. Every secret we covered wasn't just hidden, it was testing something specific about how you play. The Golden Scarab tested your patience. The Silver Scarab tested your thoroughness. The Blade of Calling tested your willingness to jump into the void. And that pattern? It's deliberate. From Software isn't just hiding items, they're profiling players, sorting the explorers from the rushers, the wall smackers from the guide followers. The real question isn't why these items are hidden, it's what From Software learns about you when you find them. If you enjoyed this video and want to see every secret law in Dark Souls explained, click the video on the screen.